Hi, hello, people. I hope you can see and hear me out there. I'm experimenting with the camera angles too. I thought it'd be really fun to connect a little more to my Essassani guide. There are a lot of other great Essassani channelers out there, and they're likely. I think I appreciate them a little more than the work I do with them. Actually, like. Well, there's Ryuk and what's this? There's Cece who's Stephanie channels, and there's that guy in Los Angeles with the Hawaii shirts. He's also a really good channeler. Like, I know Bashar is just something special, right? And I think like everyone knows a major debt to that guy and the content he brought through and the amazing work he does. But I think it'll be interesting to check in with the collective and see what my guy Carlo he has to say about everything, and of course just write your questions in the feed, please, and let me know if there's anything technical or you can't hear me or anything, and otherwise I'm as excited about the whole chips of the triangle as you are, and I'll try to remember to look into the camera. So everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, sharing, subbing, donating, and commenting, and for your questions and the sweet energy that you bring to this co-creation. So I hope you will also have a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, and hello, 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 hello. You may know me as Carlo of the Essassani. It's been a while since I've been here, though my collective, us guys, we are very interested in checking in with what is happening with humankind. You have done so much to strengthen the bonds between our two races, and therefore it's very funny for me to be here today, because I sense how not only are you getting a little more Essassani, we are also getting a little more human. It's easy for us to learn how humans interact with themselves, because we have learned how they interact with our energy. And by doing that, we have extracted some information from ourselves. And so I have titled the transmission that I have promised to give into this slice of time that as maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe that will be the period, though what you experience now is exchange, a translation of our energy into the field and frame of vision, the field and frame of reality where you find yourself. And it's very exciting to do that, because I learned quite a deal from doing that. And so since I have given you the title Chips of the Triangle, I will explain exactly what I mean by this triangle. See, the triangle is, of course, a sacred geometric unit. It is a constant that exists within all consciousness, that is able to apprehend higher dimensional experience, or the 4D, or the world of the symbols, or what you also could think of as geometry. These are basic structures that you apprehend the world through. But the triangle, where does it exist within human experience? It exists within the human mind. It exists within the human constitution. It exists within that thing which you have up until now considered something that resided along the other senses, maybe as a product of the other senses, maybe as something that lorded it over the other senses. But it is a sense in and of itself. And even were you to lose the use of the other senses, you would still have this sense of harmony and geometry. And so every time you break off a piece of the triangle, you have a new triangle facing a new triangle to play around with, and you can arrange these things in different orders of magnitude alongside each other. You can stack them on top of each other. You can make them intersect. You can create stars, Merkabahs, more complex structures, or you can use them to completely fill out a space in by arranging opposing geometric patterns within it. These are all ways that you can go about arranging your outside space, and it is so easy for you when you play around with triangles. If you sit down, take a ruler and some colors, and then begin producing triangles, see what harmony unfolds, see the patterns that begin to arise. But your mind is much the same way. It is an supergrowth, an outcrop of triangles. It is helpful for you to understand that everything as you perceive it from this point where you are coming from in your timeline, it is something that has to do with the opposition between two opposing forces that seem mutually exclusive and yet dependent on each other for nuance or understanding. And yet there is also the third point, the point of nothing, that thing which underlies all other things in your experience and that you perceive as a dark emptiness, a void, an opposition to everything. Does this space exist, you ask? Can it exist? Of course, nothing cannot exist logically, but you are becoming aware of the void, you are becoming aware of the shapeless that underscores your existence. And this is the magnificence on which the base of the pyramid of your existence is built and founded. It's upon the great void that you discover and explore. That is where you get your flashlights and start to explore, start to look at what is hiding in the darkness, start to look at what is hiding in your ideas. What is it that they are trying to teach you? What are they made of? Where do they come from? Where are they going? All these things are relevant in the construction of the moment that you perceive to be as right now, and that in accordance with your excitement, you try to explore and unfold. And so with excitement in my heart, beaming to all of you with great love and great appreciation for the thing that is unfolding here and that we will go through, I will ask this little human body of mine to open his eyes and start scanning the information field for triangles you have presented me to build from. My joy, my excitement, and my highest pleasure it is to be here with you, beloved humans. Oh no, there's a good question there, AJ. We'll get to it. We'll take this one at the top first. Question from your point of view: what would be a fun game from the Essassani to share with children on Earth to help them develop their skills as a cryptic? Thanks, much love, Kevin. Or much love, Kevin, and much love, Kevin. Yes, from my point of view, well, there are certain approaches to this, but I would venture to say that implied in the question is that my point of view is actually not that important because it is other points of views that frame this question. And so we are perhaps dealing again with a beautiful triangle chipping off the idea of the excitement or the block of the whole. We sense the idea of the cryptic is related to that loving entity called Bashar, which has established so many bridges for our collective to communicate with you. And I am aware of this individual. He has shared so many things with us. He continued to share so many things with us. And in that sense, he's adding to the database of our idea. But it is not from the perspective where I'm coming from, dealing and working with other things. I communicate more in the idea of helping you construct what it is you're longing for, to construct out of the materials that your excitement seems to be calling you. And so the best thing you could do is actually to allow these children to explore for themselves what it is their excitement to become. Because why would you need to develop the skill set if it is something that is imposed upon them? That is to say, let the play that is already within their hearts choose how to develop this skill set. And then I will set forward the principle that they should, again, play around with the structure of gamepads. Again, you could use the image of triangles. So anytime you want to structure a game, notice that there is a home base, there is a place you need to advance to, and there is a place you need to retrieve to that is connected to the home base. So again, you have that point, and the more you encourage the children to work within that system, the more they themselves will begin to develop these skills. That is, the more they understand that they are already always on a type of journey. They are within a chip of the triangle. They are within a minor circuit within the greater circuit of their creation. And there they will themselves begin to station what is the objective here? What is it I wish to do? And to move on to the next station. And from that point, how do I retrieve the lessons I have learned back to my own home base? So that is my perspective on a human perspective as I see it. And I thank you for this interesting phrase. Thank you so much, and blessings. Hello. Hi. Is all okay? All is okay. Wonderful. We're just talking to aliens, you know. And and Yana asks, what will my heart tell me today? I want to connect closer to it. Thank you. Yes. It's a quite beautiful question. And as so many other of these structures, there is the answer lies within the attention that you are putting forward. So we sense that you are happy to connect to your heart, though. Have you asked it, what would it like to teach you? Have you asked it, what is it saying? Because we know it is speaking all the time. And so it is wonderful for me to be able to tell you that your heart is telling you to listen to it some more. But it's also telling you that even when you don't, it's all right, because you are in a sense being led by it. And so you have been led here, and it's telling you to relax and open up and allow for the energies that are being offered to you by this co-creation that you enter into, to allow them to be absorbed into your heart space. And then give it a present. Remember to give it a little present. And there you could ask, what does my heart need today? Maybe it's just a deep breath and a sigh. Maybe it's a glass of water. Maybe it's lying a little on the back and relaxing your shoulders and your solar plexus and letting your heart grow. Maybe it's to sing a little song. You know what your heart is telling you to do. Maybe you should do all those things, but it's a very, very good pursuit and you cannot fail in it. And that's what your heart is telling you today. Thank you and blessings. How long are we from getting out of this corona thing? Well, how long do you need to learn the lesson, sweet ones? It's you do know that you create your own reality. I believe it has been stated firmly to you through other sources. I'm happy to state again, you do create your own reality. And so you can actually manifest an end to this right now and immediately. I am being informed by my buddy here that I'm coming through that it would be perhaps a little harder for you to do that, considering how most humans operate. That is, we sense this thing you call hardness or density. It has something to do with your unwillingness to make the changes you want to. So ask yourself, what is it that I still need to learn from this collective manifestation that I'm a part of? Because notice that some people, and we are not pointing any fingers here, I'm just happy to point out that some people have actually experienced, well, a lot of positive shifts in as a consequence of this crisis, or as epiphenomenons built into this phenomenon. And we would venture to say that that's actually the case for many of you who are here today or are listening to this intermission. And it's also the case for a lot of you who still feel very frustrated by the energies. So how long do you feel it should last? It will depend a little depending on where you are in the world, but it will also depend very much on how much energy and effort you begin to put into it, because you are, in a sense, for a lot of you, able to return to what you may consider a normal life. It's just that there are many things which were a part of the culture you were living in. And culture as such is not normal, it's also fluctuating. That has changed to reflect some energetic lessons that you want to play out. So, for instance, the experience of alienation that human beings have spent a lot of time exploring is something that you apparently don't feel that you are quite done with. And so you have been so clever as to manifest the idea that you actually wanted force alienation for a while. And ta-da, here you are talking to the aliens. What could be more lovely? Would you be talking to aliens right now if you could still sit at a restaurant or be out in the sun or play basketball or talk to sheep or whatever you prefer? There are so many lovely things to do right now, but at present you have chosen to have this experience of isolation and then constantly keep asking yourself, what is it that this unpleasantness in my field is telling me to do? How do I follow my excitement away from that? How is the contrast illuminating what I am experiencing now, where I want to go to, where I'm actually being called to go to in my experience? And as soon as you do that, you might still, of course, pick up on the collective energies and be frustrated. But as soon as you are in your excitement, in that state you call flow, going through the expression of what you came here to do, then you will feel like this thing will be over quite soon. And it will be over quite soon, seen from our perspective, and even seen from your perspectives. We promise it will be over quite soon, and you will have other experiences in this lifetime that are not about restrictions, so to speak. And our blessings to you. Yes, and AJ asks, how do you build confidence in your own abilities? To all those like me who are very insecure about their skill levels in anything related to the psychic. Yes, this is a very good question. And there are many interesting ways to explore it. So we will give some general advice, and then I will move into some advice that will be more related to how you personally can also play with and manifest some of these things that you are looking to. Because in general, what you do is that you trust the fact that you're having an experience. Can you subtract from this experience? Can you add to this experience? Can the experientiousness of your experience ever change? Is it not so that there is a type of constant in you experiencing that keeps on going, even though you may have certain jumps and shifts in consciousness, so your attention may leap or become distracted, but it is all experience, and it is all something ongoing that never ceases and never stops, no matter what shape or what point you're experiencing from. That means that even when you shift lifetimes, or even when you shift bodies, or even when you shift these things, you are still having that essential experience, just from different levels of clarity, you could say. And so, can you believe then that the experience that is going on is fully chosen and realized by you? And that means that you have constructed whatever block you are experiencing to overcome it, to feel that there is a way around something that you see as something that is simply just there. So it's the sense that you come up against the wall, and then at some point you actually remember that you were there and you built that wall earlier, and then you go around to the secret passageway and sneak through it, and then voila, effortlessly you chose to overcome that wall. So that's the idea, that whatever is going on is intuitive. It is, in a sense, psychic. It's layered with messages that you want to teach yourself. And a lot of these messages, they have to do with, well, playful reminders. So what you can do, and this goes for all of you, but now we are also moving into the more personal advice, is what you can do is that you can keep what you could call a magic diary. You could keep a set of things that make you wonder, things that are strange for you to perceive or apprehend, that somehow brought something up that you don't really know what to think about. And notice, if you keep, and it would be more helpful if you create an object such as a notebook, but you can also keep a document if you want to. But if you start keeping this register, you will begin to discover that even just planting the question will begin to produce the answers. And the answers might come up as inspiration in you, and they might appear in the outside world as information that's reaching you at the right time. But notice then that that's actually a way to build your level of confidence, because when you then realize that, well, your questions as they come up are being answered, well, you can reach that level of magic or psychic skill where you begin to pour ingrained questions or prayers or spells or whatever you want to call them. But these type of circuit resolutions, intentions, you begin to pour them into. You could also create the notebook, or you could say them out loud, or you could use them as repetitive circumstances. And there you will also begin to see things change in your environment. And so we advise you to do something simple, something that you don't have any blocks against necessarily, or few blocks against. So if you want to make a major career change, or change your relationship status, or will get a better career, or whatever these things that human beings, as we perceive you, and that from the information that you are giving us, that you are quite obsessed with, and usually have quite a lot of ideas with, and therefore and therefore a lot of blocks, that can be difficult. But if you just say that, oh, I really think I would like to see a donkey today, and you repeat that sentence for yourself in the morning, and then maybe the wish hasn't become strong enough, but after the second or the third day, a donkey will be brought into your existence for you to experience, and that will be a telltale sign. And then you can begin doing this, like, oh, I think I want to see a man carrying a bag of oranges today, and then the man with the bag of oranges will begin to appear. And once you work up this level of confidence in your own skill as a manifester, then the sky is a limit, because you begin to be able to change everything. And then just listen to your heart, because it's speaking to you constantly. And there are flutters and small impulses and vibrations going off in your ear and your heart space all the time that you can listen to. And so do not worry that you are on the path and that you are manifesting these impediments only to see them as things to be overcome, much as you don't know what's down in that hat. And that's why it's funny that you can pull a bunny from it. Our blessings in this venture. Yes, I will just see. Senisen asks, I send when I am dancing a lot of light energy to Mother Gaia and other kingdoms. Question is how much effective this is for rising the vibrations on this planet. Thank you very much. Thank you very much too. See, you can approach this from different angles, and we are aware that what you mean by this, and know that it is working, it is helping, it's beautiful. But the image you are using are somewhat like the image the that you say the sun rises, even though you actually know that what happens is that the world, or the planet that you find yourself on, revolves its surface to face the sun again with the side that you find yourself on. And that's the idea then, that as a matter of fact, the sun isn't going anywhere, or it's going around the galactic center, but you experience it as such. And know then that what you are doing when you are sending all this light to the mother is that, well, she already exists in a very, very high vibrational space, because she exists in all these parallel realities. And so you choose which timeline you want to connect to. And the higher vibration you connect to on this timeline, the higher vibration Mother Earth will have to match that frequency. So that's in a sense to say that Mother Earth is fine. She exists in a lot of beautiful manifestations where she isn't affected by energy that's coming in, or the negative things that have been you have experienced so much. And so when you are dancing, when you're transmitting this light, is that you are actually jumping realities into something that's more perfect, and you are helping the collective. That is, you are helping all the others that are connected to this vision and to your vibration and to this high vibration of the planet to also connect into it. So you are building a brighter future, and you are shifting not only for yourself but for the collective of humanity to collect to a more bright and luminescent version of your Earth Mother. But know, for instance, that we ourselves also have our existence on, well, we call her something else. And from my place in the language that I was used to speak, I would call her Inna. And that's an in and an E and N and an A and an A. But she exists in a different experience, having had quite different experiences. So the continents also look very strange, and there are other planets in our system. And well, there's a totality of 11 planets in the in the solar system in our vicinity, for instance. So that's just to say that you can actually jump between those realities. And we are just so happy that you are taking the time to align with your excitement and the dancing and the vibration, because it is really working, and it is calling forward this positivity in everyone's experience. And that's why it's becoming so much easier for us to also have this joy of interacting with you humans. So we also extend the blessings from the Great Mother, who are so happy that you are connecting with her in this way. And we thank you and bless you. Yes, and then Adelina asks, I'll just check. Yes. Can you please explain how the physical reality is an illusion, and still you can enter it and communicate with all of us? Thank you. Yes, it's a very good question, and we know it's a complex question, and we also encourage you to, for instance, check in, because we know that you are connecting to us, and I sense that there's a lot of the energy of our collective already reaching into you, so you can tune in and then get answers that might be more specific or resonate more with you, because illusion is it's a funny word, and it's one of my joys as a type of materials expert to be able to see how humans perceive materials, that is how you experience energy arranged into condensation patterns or perception patterns. And that's what you could think of as illusion, because of course with illusion many things can be implied. There can be the idea that something isn't real, and it's perfectly real in the sense that it's an experience you can have, but your dreams are real in that sense too, and everything you could ever experience is real. Your thoughts are real, your visions are real. They're all realities, but they don't necessarily fit into the idea of confined matter that sits as solid state objects in gravitational relationship to each other within a blank space. And in that sense, of course, it is an illusion, because it's something that is created by focus. And in that sense, what you will discover as you progress up the dimensional ladder, and what we are so happy to share with you, is the idea that this is a type, again, of, it's a fixation of the points of the triangle. So different ways to describe this is, and now we are lending from the information that we are scanning here from certain Indian theosophies or myths of how the world works, the structures of how the world can be perceived, that you could think of it as there is an eternal consciousness, which is both unchanging, but when coming into contact with a substance or formless energy, these two things begin to form a type of mirroring effect of each other that creates the world of shapes. And so the unity of these two is the unified field, or that which you call God, or the unmanifest, or the Brahman. And these other two entities is called Purusha for the consciousness, and Prakriti for the matter. And this is, in a sense, very harmonious. It's a very harmonious way of describing it, because it's completely dynamic, but also saying that the experience of something that is simply is, and it always is. And so, well, the illusion would somehow imply that this is lesser experience, and it isn't. It's just focused to have, again, be only a chip of the triangle of the entire cosmos. And so, because you are a point of creation, an eternal point of creation, that is somehow funneling these two things into one unified field, that is a picture of the whole totality of the divine, that is a type of universe total unto itself within a universe consistent of all the universes. So that's the way that you're having that experience. And you are free to think of that as an illusion, of course, in the sense that your death is an illusion because you continue as a conscious point, but it's also as real as anything that's going on in the universe. Wherever you may look, it's very real. It's just far more changeable in what you may think of as natural laws and other dimensions than that what you have come to think of. And that might be where the idea of illusion rises, the sense of being stuck. And we bless you very much, and we hope that this explanation gave you some solace, because look at how wonderful this place is. We are really enjoying scanning your experiences and receiving them, and taking our experiences to you, because we see this as a very expansive and dynamic place that's full of flashes of light and funny senses and all those things that are illusory, yes, but also very perceptible and thus quite real to us. Blessings and thank you. Yes, and thank you for your beingness too, and wonderful questions out there, guys. And Jennifer asks, "Dear Essassani, may you guide me on how to bring into my consciousness awareness the moments your race has visited me in your triangle ships. How can I prepare for our future encounters?" Yes, this is a beautiful question. We sense that and know that you are also visually inclined. So a way that you can prepare is that you could begin to work with contact symbols, or the idea that by creating certain geometric patterns, you come to a different type of unity with the contact invoice that also relate to your personal experience. So when you have contacted triangular ships, we sense there is she calls herself Kirsi, and we sense this is it's a K and I, an R and S and an I, and we are sorry if these I's are confusing to English ears, but that's the way that we are transmitting them to through this head, and well, she's kind of a fleet commander or a captain, but of course it's because our ships are also, ships of a triangle. They can construct different unities and then begin to splinter off. And so we sense that try to play around with 12 triangles. 12 is the number that we're transmitting here, and make them in 3 varying sizes. So you have the ability to place them within each other. And there you will then have 3 sets of 4 triangles. No, 4 sets of 3 triangles that you can play around with arranging. And there you will begin to sort of connect with that better. But that's a personal advice. We can also give you the advice to connect to us. There are certain permission slips you can use, and we believe that the individuals that we are communicating with here are aware of the idea of permission slips, but it simply means that you are creating one of these points of illusion to come into some remembrance of something you may experience as more eternal, and within you there is that sense of it's ingrained within that point of attention that you are, that it's inherently more pleasurable for you to be at these higher states of connection or reality or eternity. And therefore ways you can do that is to picture yourself made of blue starlight, for instance. It's very helpful to do this type of do the starlight skeleton, because a lot of memories are ingrained within your skeleton, and they are sort of filtering in a lot of the potential codes that your DNA may change and alter around. And then we would also say that when this COVID ends, and do not have fear, because the year 2022 is coming up, and it has a very particular numerology, and it has a lot of interesting things to offer you. And so there you will also begin to see the real life changes of manifestations. So that is to say, for instance, the living night sky, the communications that you will receive from there will begin to become more and more clear for those of you who have already been tuned into this track. So there's also there's a great joy and unfolding there in your timeline, which just enjoy the unwrapping of all the presents that consist of the timeline that guides you there to have those wow experiences too. And there will be wows along the way. There are always wows along the way. Just remember sometimes that And frustration is actually a wow seen from the perspective of your higher self. Yes, sometimes I think my higher self is kind of a prick. I would just like to add personally, like ease up on the experiences, mates. But yes, it's all good. Thank you for reminding us, Carlo. I'll Yes, Senesin asks, I felt today strong connection with goddess Isis, Egypt time. Can you see for me what this connection is? I am happy to connect with you. Yes. Yes, this is very beautiful. See, it's another one of these points of synchronicity, which are pointing to the fact that more than illusion, this is actually a very beautiful tapestry of your own creation, because this energy is also the goddess Mother Isis is someone who's very, very present in many human beings' energy field, and she's been very present in this channel, and you can approach her in other ways if you want to. You can also approach her as Ishtar or Kubele. We are not sure of the English pronunciation here, or Mother Mary, or whoever you want to, and we believe there's also a Lakshmi sitting on top of the channel's head that you might be able to vision. So what's happening is, in a sense, that you are partially recalling past life experiences. And so many of you who are spiritually inclined have been through this staging area of Egypt, which was a very special place and kept some of the traditions from the earlier pre-Ice Age civilizations, such as Atlantis, alive, and therefore you have filtered through this. But she's connecting to you because you're becoming connected to divine wisdom. And so Sophia is also another name for her. And will seek out the rattle of Isis. And if you can begin to obtain that rattle and begin to hold it, and then you can actually use it while you're dancing, that would be very helpful. And then again, try to connect into it, that what is the message that she's telling you? And she will come through and begin to guide you. And a lot of this simply has to do with emotional allowance. It has to do with, you could say, the mothering energy. And that is also what so many of you have experienced in this period of restriction. It is the mothering energy. And by that, we mean it's an energy that lives in all human beings, but it's an energy that allows for you to forgive, to nurture, to grow, to uphold, to believe that from nothing or from dark experiences, something positive, something new, something unexpected can take shape and life through you, and that you are being guided. And the more that you allow for this energy, this loving mother energy, which surrounds all of you, to come into your experience, the more blessed you will also be in the creations, and the more joy you will experience. And that is why Isis is connecting to you. So seek her out, and she will guide you. Thank you, and blessings in this. And we transmit her blessings to you from here also. Oh, hi, Salish. Interesting question. Hi, are you able to connect to Alicia of the Inner Earth Delphi civilization? And does she have any messages for me? Many thanks and blessings. Well, yes, it's well, she says she finds herself presently engaged with digging. And we know, of course, she comes from civilization, but she's sort of hollowing out something. That's what we're sensing. And it's because she's fashioning this type of object, and the objects that she wants to give you, you could think of it as a type of earthenware bowl, but it's more of a hyperdimensional object, but it's very orb shaped, and then it has a slight hole within it, and this hole consists of some energy transmissions. And what she's doing is she's connecting this to, well, she's sort of fastening it to your sacrum, and there will be like an energy station that protrudes and that partially infuses energy within this, so healing, stabilizing energy, but also partially helps to funnel energy back. So it's a type of, well, you can think of it as a reverse antenna that connects her energy to yours and make sure that she stabilizes and guides you down there. So you are being more enmeshed into the earthen energies. And this also has to have to do with your general energy field having been a little off for the planet for, well, quite a few decades. We sense, and this means that actually a lot of your life has been, well, off planet, we could say, to some extent. Energetically, you have not participated fully with your oversoul in the lifetime that you are having here, and that's what she's doing now. So she's fashioning this type of knot which holds you tethered to the earth in the most positive sense, and is really helping you grow and explore. And there was a tone in the left ear of the channel here, which we gather is a message, and the message she gives is, hold on tight, but don't grip too strong, because we're going for a ride, and it's going to be long. So yes, it's gonna be a lot of fun, I can tell you, and please take that with you as you go from there. Like the stuff that comes up in channeling, it's awesome. Um, and channel 2 asks, hi all, several years ago I witnessed a triangle of flashing lights that sat in the night sky for some time. Could you tell me anything about it? Love and gratitude. Yes, 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 yes. That was us. That was a collective of our spirit guides. It was more someone who's shamanically inclined, and that was to teach you some lessons. So this was a type of condensed, layered information that you then begin to extract from what you have already extracted some of it from. But from this point onwards, there's a type of unwrapping, because what it in a sense did was, again, a notice chips of the triangle was that it it burrowed some of it buried some of the pieces of its own energy within that triangular section. So if of your heart center, but this is connected to your shoulder blades. So if you begin to start playing around with tapping on your hands, and we mean especially the central surface, and here you can experience also the triangle that runs across the root of the fingers and down into the wrist, it's called, and down into the wrist. And so here you will sense there is a triangle, and you can begin to start to paint all these triangles in your hands, and then see how there's actually a type of hidden light grid down there. And so this was it was quite a classic awakening experience, and it was undertaken by we get the vibration skibo of the entity that was communicating here. And yeah, he's like a friend and associate of mine. I know that guy. And then what he was doing was that he was reminding you that you two are actually quite connected. So he's been in touch with you over time, also through your childhood. And we're getting that there's an incident approximately when you are 7.3 years of age. That would make you seven. We sense approximately 7 years and 4 months where there is a time where you are quite distraught. And so that's when you sort of reached out and broke beyond the veil. And so they have been trying to communicate with you ever since, all your guides, and we have been quite engaged in it. So you also go off planet a lot to work with the hybrids, for instance, and that's something that you enjoy doing. And so usually take these sightings that you have as good warnings that you are connecting and that information has been coming through to you helpfully. And also notice how much the energies of your collective has changed, so that you're actually able to perceive these as positive influxes rather than menacing visitors from outer space who are said to do all kinds of experiments on you, because we actually really just want to play, the most of us. So our blessings to you, and we sense the connection growing stronger. It is lovely to see human beings be. It is lovely to see you expand, grow in excited ways. Perfect. I think, yes, AJ, I was told by a channeler once that there are reptilians that were at that time learning something from me, but I don't know if he was correct or what they were learning. Well, yes. They were, for instance, also learning about fear patterns. So you pointed to some of that mistrust, and know that a lot of you have volunteered. In general, humankind have volunteered to also, well, learn a lot from the reptilian experiment, but also teach a lot to it, because and there are other entities that are far more connected to this than I am, but I do get, I do get the headlines, so to speak. And so it is this idea that human beings are actually a composite of a lot of different energies. And so you have been trying to teach this creature how he was to release himself from negative thought patterns. And by that, the tether between the two of you has also grown somewhat weaker. But he's also like a guy who likes to protect you. So notice that fear actually also has that composite dimension of being something that's very ripe and fertile with energy, that's quickly able to activate other resources in you. And that's something that's very reptilian. So that's sort of is the fear exchange that you have had, but in a positive way, because we also see that it's changing. And the more conscious that you grow of it, the more you will also be able to see that this is meaningful for you to have. It's a type of learning experience that's helpful for you and for everyone. And therefore, please do connect to this principle. And also know that if you want to study, for instance, manifestations and these things, trying to connect to, well, the reptilians, because they're also master shapeshifters, means that they're also master manifestors. They're very good at affecting physical reality. So if you want wishes to come true, then find, of course, a typical human wish is the hoard of gold that's guarded by the dragon, and then ask the dragon, well, how do I come to this hoard of gold? And he will usually have a quite insightful answer for you. Our blessings, and please follow your heart with excitement on this. There is excitement to be gotten. And yes, round two is perfect. So we are already with the second questions, and there'll also be a live stream this equinox on Sunday. So we'll get around to everything. I think. And Kevin asks if round two is okay. Yes, okay. Kevin asks, can you comment on the effectiveness of shamanic drumming and chanting to help support a trance state? I most certainly can. It's quite beautiful because, see, you are built on different vibrational spectrums, and so what you're also experiencing or experimenting with in, or we forget the word. Is it called spectroscopy, or those things where you connect membranes and fine grains of sand to different vibrational patterns and then conduct them to the membrane, and then you see it arranging. So it is, in a sense, that thing that you create a certain vibrational pattern, and to us and to your higher selves, this vibrational pattern is as much a construction in space as it is in time. And that's actually also what you perceive in these altered ceremonies, or these ceremonies that induce these trance states. It is that it's a kind of other space, other space of otherness that you go into and are then transformed, because the longer that you stay in and surrounded by this meditation or this sound vibration, the longer it will begin to sort of, let us say, meditate on you, and therefore create a version of you that's aligned with this higher vibration. So what you do, in, for instance, in with shamanic drumming or in these type of drum ceremonies, and especially if you are more people participating in this, is that you create a type of energetic field that is focused in a higher vibrational spectrum, and then you then sort of force all the things that can't access into that state outside of it while you are in it. And so it's very close to all the other ways that you induce altered states, but it has to do with the idea that, well, there you are in a vibration that's somehow being, you could say, channeled into you. And so with the mantra meditation is something that is equally powerful, and in many ways more, because you are already vibrating that. So you are setting that biological spiritual technology, that breath and voice which you have within you, that spoken word of the divine, you are already setting that alight within certain vibrations, and therefore you create a space that's wonderful and that's nice to be in. And if I may take a dark detour, I would point to that. Notice that sometimes human beings get confused about, then how can it be that people like to join into what you know as cults or closed circuits? And it's often because actually within these closed circuits, there are these very, very positive, depersonalized states that are being cultivated and then people can enter into. And then the problem, of course, becomes that they become open or vulnerable, you could say, in the trance state, and are then susceptible to the content that's being poured into them. And so the content is preferably, it should be one of collective love and collective communion, which you are quite good at in these experiences. But you could also choose to then, after the state, begin to channel or begin to connect to your spirit guides, begin to let out content. And of course, expressive dancing is also a type of channeling, which is very close by when you get touched by this vibration. And that's some of the ways that you then begin to express that, because you have already created the space where you could say the high vibration is focused and concentrated and allows for you to then work it in different ways in accordance with your own benefit and excitement. So beautiful, beautiful way that you work with these things, human beings. And it's a place where there's great love in you for not only for each other but also for being. And our blessings, my blessings to you in this. Oh, AJ says, "Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to ask a question that was not very suitable to the Being You channel." That's no problem. You know, it's you get different perspectives, but in the higher dimensions, they're all connected to the all, so they can give you the answers usually. So whatever, ask whatever. It's always welcome. They'll answer what they feel like. And then Tomek asks, if there is no time on higher densities, you can't have an experience for the first time or play a game where you don't know the outcome. All knowing means no surprises anymore. Thanks. Yes, this is a very good. This is a very good question, and you are touching upon, well, the essential idea of why it is that you are, or why it is that I am, or why it is that anything is. And it's the player personality. It's the play of things being different, because it's absolutely true that the place that we come from, divine great source, everything is in a sense known, and so everything is also quite stale and boring. And that is why it is much more fun for eternity to be focused into billions and billions and billions and billions of points of attention. And of course, we are understating the numbers here, to have all these focused experiences, because it means that there's surprise and it means that there's joy. And notice that these things are built into perception, and there are entities who experience your perceptions different than you do, but it is sort of a universal pattern for most entities that they sort of like the enjoyment of surprise. So notice in your patterns of storytelling, for instance, there is always the idea of conflict and something that is unknown that is then disclosed or uncovered or obtained, and then is used to move someone forward. And that's because it's a simple, beautiful way to structure experience, so that you don't run into this mechanical problem, so to speak, the problem of determinism, that things are already known. And so you could think of that it's usually known as the Archangel Metatron. And you might, if you were known to interact with him, he's also kind of a dry fellow from my perspective, because he's sort of the one who knows all these things. And in the system, there is a built-in opportunity for unpredictability, but it's still rather predictable from that 12th dimension where he sits. But from down here, from where I am, it's just a lot of fun, because there's no idea what's going to happen, and we help determine it by the changes and shifts that we create. So much as when you create something, you only tentatively or half know what it's going to turn out to be. That's very much the idea that reality is growing from, and that makes it a lot of fun. So you can be pretty sure when you drop an acorn into the ground that if it thrives, and well, then at some point an oak will begin to sprout and grow. But how that oak will come to look like and how it will live its life, that's something that you can't gain access to. And that's why it becomes lovely to remain interested in that circuit of life, because it's actually unpredictable. And that's a lovely surprise. I would also point to, for instance, that if you think of, and I said this with the triangle in the beginning, the idea of, the two opposing forces in the points in the triangle, which are then united in the third point, and these positions, they shift, but it is in a sense, well, what you also know as sexuality. So the idea of something that is longed for but revealed, that becomes undisclosed to you, and then results in a new creation that begins to build some kind of new adventure that has its own timeline, and that you are somehow connected to but also separated from. And then there are these infinite loops of revealing and revealing and concealing that are just funny to be around and to perceive. It's blessed being, isn't it? Yes, I think so. If anyone hasn't gotten seconds or are up for the third, you can try to shoot with a question. I think I'll just channel for another 20 minutes or so and try to get through some of these. It's a long time since I've channeled Carlo. He's a funny entity. These guys. Can you please give some information about Bulgarian people and their political and economical system? Can they expect things to get better in the country in the near future? And it's Adelina who asks, so thank you for that question. Yes, it's again quite interesting. See, I might be acquainted with the headlines, and I might be aware that there is an area that is known to people or human beings as Bulgaria that's separated off into space. But the way it appears from my perspective is more as you could think of it an energetic unit. So much as you humans build energetic units within yourself, and then you have an energetic circuit and you install attention into it, and then it becomes something, and it perceives or it perceives itself in a certain way, and then it plays out certain functions. And this happens whether or not it's you're building a you're building a home or a YouTube channel or trying to learn a song or whatever. That there's always this sort of creation of something being grown, and therefore it's so difficult with these energies that we have now to really come into predictions. And we know it's in a sense frustrating for many of you who have also been, well, not necessarily relied upon, but been used to the fact that, well, the non-physical could predict a lot of things for you, that the energies are becoming so volatile, so dependent on how you choose and which ways you choose, that it's very difficult to set forward these predictions. And so what we sense is that this territory is more aligned with, well, the energy that you could call it has a lot of integration to do. So it's in a place where if you ever had, if you've ever been through a divorce, or maybe you've known someone who's been through a very rough divorce, and so they're kind of at that point where they don't really want to carry on. They just want to spend some quiet time and drink some beers in front of the television, and that's in a sense the energy that we're somewhat getting. But know that this is also a recuperation period, so it intersects with a lot of powerful energies and different energetic blocks where it's to our best conception within the next approximately 15 years, this area, this culture will begin to play an important role in mending a lot of what you could call the broken patterns within Europe. So there are certain affinities to, well, a lot of the different areas that surround it, and somehow it's also unique, and it's very interesting. This is quite we know this is quite a complex thing, but that you have experienced with this global crisis being shut down into national units. And so many of you may really be able to perceive how the national units that you come from, how they are idiosyncratic, how their own logics and best sentiments also come to work against them in some cases, and in others are actually working for them. And in all these cases, this is very much a choice for cultures to begin to choose what is it that we want to be in the future. And this has to do also with your movement into personal choice. So when you begin to sense that culture is something that you're constantly co-creating by your perceptions of what it is, and by your perceptions of what you are, and the energies that you bring forward to it, and the things and perceptions that you retrieve from it, then it also becomes very malleable. And that's just something that's happening in a lot of countries now. So the most helpful thing to be is actually for you to ask, what kind of object can I fashion? And that might just be a sentence or a word or a book of poetry or a song again, or something that you might want to contribute, that's wanting to express itself through you, where you are seeing that you are uniquely aligned to speak those words into that culture because of your experiences and because of your command of the language and the understanding of the language. And so all these patterns that may have seemed random to you as to why you incarnated the place you did and in the culture you did, they will begin to become harmonic. And there it will really help if you sense that instead of relying on things changing or looking at your watch and going, okay, 15 years and something exciting will happen. And does it have to do something with Russia or Turkey or Greece or Serbia or Macedonia that's not allowed to call itself Macedonia? Or what is it that's going on here? Then actually think, what is Bulgaria to me? And and how does it play out in my experience? And how do I want to interact with it in order for it to be something that's interesting and that's helpful to both me and to others? It's a beautiful, interesting perspective for all of you to consider in those funny things you create that you call nationalities and the cultures around them. Blessings. Yes, I think, Jana has a second question here. How to become more aware of creating one's own reality and its effects that we inevitably experience. Thank you. Yes. You see, again, I return to the triangle, and it's so lovely for me to have anticipated. I brought this pattern along this evening to be able to show you something, and it's that wonderful thing that you can, when you create your own reality, of course, know that a structure, and that I'm pointing to again, is that, well, what you might think of as an illusion, but that you have a sense of subject and you have a sense of object. So you have yourself sitting in the reality you created, and you have the pile of objects surrounding you that you call your reality, and essentially are the outer world that you have created around yourself. And so you begin by shining up those things in the outer world, that is taking them in and making them a part of your experience, and find out that the more that you connect to, and now I'm calling them objects, but they are all types of experiences that you can have. It's whatever takes place without the limit of yourself or the perception of yourself as a closed off being. And notice that when we begin to play around with these things, they begin to change according to your perception. And that's that very weird thing you discovered in your physics, and that you are still playing around with, that things change according to your perception. And so when they begin to change, they will change according to what you have done with them. And this might be frightening, but know that you are always teaching yourself and helpful experience. So that's again the idea that with no expectation of the outcome, you follow your excitement. So when you turn your attention away from this beautiful interaction, this energy will have come alive within you. It will have become more activated. And by that activation, you will begin to see that you should that there is something that you actually want to play around with. And that might be the experience of yourself as a body. It might be the experience of yourself as a mental being, that is your perceptions or your ideas of things. Or it might be something quite literal, like emptying out the litter box, or also whatever else you might think of that is in need of your is in need of your change and your directed attention. And so when you do these things with directed attention, and again, a good thing is to try to write them down, you will begin to experience that changes happen around you. And then when you begin to take note of these changes, you will begin to experience that this phenomenon you call manifestation, which is the idea of the outside reality affirming to you that you create your own reality by the in within the idea of your inside reality, that will begin to escalate as well. And then just follow the excitement, find out what you really think is fun, and then go do that. And that will help you in this process. So get excited. That's what we're telling you. Again, get excited. E- yes, I think I will. Oh yes, I think there are like about two good questions here left, and it's wonderful. Then we'll get through them all, I think. Adelina asked partially from your point of view how the school system is going to be changed. I want to say the Arcturians delivered a lot of information on this in some past live streams, so they're probably worth checking out, because Carlo is saying that he's pretty much agreeing with them. And then Adelina also asks, I know you don't sleep. How can I distinguish when I'm having a dream and when I'm communicating on another spiritual level in my dreams? Are all dreams contacts, and is there a difference? Yes, it's a quite beautiful question, because in a sense we don't sleep, but we do recalibrate. So much as we were answering that beautiful question on shamanic drumming and mantras and trance states, we do also create these types of cutout states where we recalibrate or realign. And that's in a sense not sleep, but it is also something that we are excited to do, because we understand the balance of having intuitive experience with, you could say, willed experience. Because seeing as we are still personalities, we still have that element that is called will. We just don't have conflicts of will like you might have, where it's, oh no, like I don't actually want to know if, do I want to eat this banana or do I want to eat this box of chocolates. And then for us, of course, we would realize what is the different excitements in this, so there would be no conflict of will, and we would understand that the box of chocolates would also be welcome sometimes. But that's just to say that willing is something that is connected to creation. And when you dream, you do in a sense the opposite, that is, you non-create what you might think of as receiving. And by receiving, you are in a sense allowing for alignment. And by alignment, we mean that thing which is the higher part of you, the self having the experience. And then you yourself, physical you, personality, having that experience. And so the influxes in your dreams are always created in this space, but they are sort of, you could say, channeled from different vibrations. So if you bring a lot of low vibrational goods into your nighttime sleep. If you have a lot of unfinished things that you need processing, and you could have picked them up earlier in the day, you could have picked them up from someone else's energy field, you could have picked them up from a lifetime of having a hard time, or there are many ways you can do this, then you will often channel things that are allowing you to somehow bring this into conscious attention, and then looking at it and releasing it. And that's essentially the discovery you have in modern dream interpretation or psychoanalysis, the idea that, well, there are parts of me that aren't being heard, and they get the opportunity to voice themselves at night, and that's when they do. But the more you tune into other frequencies, or the more you are in fact in need of spiritual guidance or some sort of direction, the more you will have this experience of the sacred dream, or the very meaningful dream, the very guided dream, the very intuitive dream, those dreams that you know you have to pay attention to, that don't necessarily leave you, that are calling you. And they are coming from, well, they're being channeled from the higher self, you could say, and sometimes they'll be channeled by some of your counterparts or alien guides. That happens. So there are very different, much as there are very, very different experiences within the unifying concept of thought to be had, there are also many, many different experiences within the unifying concept of dream to be had. And you could say that the channeling is a very specific type of dream experience, where you sort of bring or enmesh these two layers together. And it's quite interesting, because you will find when you speak to light channelers such as this individual that we're coming through our body here, or other individuals who are also quite connected in this way, that it has a lot of connection to what you may think of as the twilight state. And for a lot of people, what you know of as sleep paralysis, or these experiences where you are somehow both awake but receiving, they precede you entering into these channeling experiences. And that is often the signature you can have. That is the signature, that you are somehow receiving something that's triggering a knowing. So it's a sense of knowing, of, yes, and it's because we're actually looking for the word in English, but it's this type of security of undying wisdom that's being revealed to you, specifically to you in ways that you might understand it, that is in a way the hallmark of the channeling experience. Because, well, we can connect to you and we can pour all types of content in, but it's only what can be channeled in this situation is only what this individual is able to receive and translate, and what the individuals that are here creating the situation with him are able to allow for to be created. And so remember to thank yourself for all the content or the help that you're receiving, because you are in a sense the one creating it, and we are only coming from part of the greater dream of life into your specific dream, to help remind you that it's just an illusion, but it's an illusion that keeps going. And so we believe that dreams that keep going, those are the kind of dreams that you tend to somehow think are reality. No. Oh, thank you for that question. Oh, this is actually an interesting. Nikki asks, "Hi, can you please tell me why my friend purposely took my phone? Does he have any intention on blackmailing me? Does he have any personal information of mine on him?" So let's try to get him to answer that one, because he's saying that he doesn't want to answer it. But let's get him to why, say why. Yes, and dear Nikki, the reason that we will answer it with a non-answer is that you need to explain to yourself, why is it that you manifested this thing? And it's likely, from the way you phrased the question, It's the idea that there are things about yourself that you are afraid of knowing or showing to the world. And that's why, of course, the idea of blackmail becomes evident, because it would be impossible to blackmail an individual who doesn't have anything to hide. And it's very interesting with these openness um, cultures that you're creating with your technology, because notice again, it's the same paradox as in the corona, where, well, you have access to a universally created experience that's interpersonal, but you very much have it from individual devices that you then connect your personality to, and somehow also connect your dark secrets to and your fear to. And it's just, if you have manifested the reality of this fear, it is because the fear is telling you that it would like to be resolved. And you do that by going into more honesty. And we don't know whether your friend took your phone or not. But it seems that you do, or you do have an idea about it, and that tells you a lot about how you perceive your friend, and it tells you a lot about the negative things that you may feel are present in your life that you would want to deal with. And that's the question that we would that's the way we would like to answer that question, because that would be a far greater help to you than knowing this and then going down that negative rabbit hole. It would be to focus on what is it that you are attracting here, and are you excited about learning about, or getting some of those things that you may find embarrassing, getting them up to the surface so they can be uncovered, and so that you can feel free, and so that you can feel that you are not under pressure to change or conform to anything, as long as you are living in accordance with your consciousness. And our blessings to you in this. Know that you will be connected to the internet again also, we sense, and there is always connection for you here. Our blessings. Yes. Yes, channel 2 asks, can you comment on the power of the gaze to influence other beings, as in mesmerism? Can it be used for healing? Thanks. This is a beautiful question. And yes, it certainly can. Notice this is the idea of, you know it in the symbol of the eye of Horus, or you have it in the idea of your third eye. It's because humans are structured in a way where visuality is your main sensual component. It's the main way that you interact and relate to the world. And that's why visualizing, or the gaze, mesmerism, focusing things in sight, is a very, very powerful way to focus your attention. And that's also why you call it concentration in your language, and it means actually being with the center. And there's of course the idea that this center is the unbroken vision. And if you keep someone within this, and you then pour positive intention into it, you will begin to see them in a more and more positive light. And that's actually a positive version of them that you are, with the permission of their oversoul, if they allow this, then sort of overlapping onto their reality, pulling them into a more positive timeline and changing them in that way. And that's why it can be very possible or positive to work up your vision to a sense of deep concentration, because inner vision mirrors outer vision, and these two things are very powerful for human beings. Not that there are other energies or entities in the cosmos that will participate sensory experience, or what's the word, part out, make different parts out of sensory experience, or have very different organs and perceive photons differently, for instance. But you humans, you have sort of developed this very acute photonic sense, and that's also why you are changing so much with the energies that are coming in and allowing for a greater connectivity of your brain centers, which are very visually run. And thank you. Our blessings in this endeavor too. Yes. And Paul Faster asks, you think I can learn to channel as well? And yes, you most certainly can. If it's something that's calling your excitement, you definitely can learn to channel. And I think we will have this. Final question. When the time for enjoying your presence, full contact with star brothers and sisters will become everyday reality, I will smile and smile even more. Love you, beautiful beings. I just felt like reading that aloud because it's so so beautiful. And then Auden Rose asks, much blessings. As a child during sleep, I would hear a church bell and would feel my feet being pulled. I will fight against this. Can you tell me what this was? Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you for posing that question. Well, this was the angels pulling you off to where you sensed your home was. So you have a lot of angelic energy within you. And so these were sort of trips back, so to speak. The bell ringing was a type of it's a type of transportation vessel, but it was in a sense it was that sacred vibration triggering you. Again, the meandering back and forth of 2 points being united in the third point that is you, and then being dragged away into that thing. And it might have been a little frightening as a child, but we also sense that in the same time there is something, a rough and tumble playfulness around you in the approach to the other dimensions. And so we sense that you being, we're getting the image of an angelic boxer for some reason, and we know these two don't actually match, but it's quite funny. It has to do with this. We also sense it has something to do with well, past life where you tended to the bells, where you were a sort of, now we don't remember the name as the channel is becoming a little tired. We can scan it, but the person who operates the bell in a cathedral, though this was a smaller church, and it was located in the countryside of, we are getting rural Colombia for some reason, and there might be something in these patterns that you would like to explore in approximately the time of the 1670s. So if you began to look at Colombian churches, there would be something also that would call you out, and that would be from that era approximately. And know that you are all multidimensional, and you are all communicating with this multi-dimensional reality. And it's becoming easier and easier for you to retrieve these things. And that's also why, dear, and we are scanning the name Paul from the recollection, but that dear person who just asked whether he will be able to channel or not, we can assure him that he will, because the connections are very strong. And if he wants to tune in and talk with us and have others talk with us through him, that is something that is being fully allowed for as you begin to progress and build yourselves into master creators of this dream that you are in. So know that you will have the capability to fashion all the right objects at the right time, and it will be fun and a pleasure for you to do so. And therefore, with your permission, I will leave you with I would leave you with a prayer and a blessing. And it will be a dialect that was spoken when we still spoke in words in the language that I hail from. If it is Ifnei di Weni Hemene Enemine Ani Unirse Ifnei Noalen Ekene Loedet Eduet Aktuedikt Elenin Elem duet Elu Aisknen Eklimtiet Afulu Esulikt et Uenu Eleful. Yes, there has been as many points of perception as there are perfect pearls of reality to be unwrapped and uncovered in this totality of the all. We are all participating in it, and we are all moving forward with surprise after surprise after surprise, mounting into a big bang of joy and excitement that creates worlds and then allows them to be seen. Therefore, know that we, the Essassani, we are becoming closer and closer to you in vibration. And Carlo, I have personally enjoyed interacting with you a very great deal this day. Our deep love to you humans, our blessings, and our guidance whenever you would like to seek it. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did so too. Thank you. Yes, thank you for all the great questions, people, and the beautiful comments and everything. You make it a very a special and lovely time to be here. And Paul asked when will the next live stream be, so I know in advance. I'm trying to get better at planning them in advance, and the next one will be next Sunday at the same time. So that would be 7 p.m. Europe and 1 p.m. in New York Eastern Seaboard time, and it's the equinox. So my buddy Umblam and the Arcturians will join us and guide us through what's happening with those energies and answer any questions you might have. So without further ado, thank you for being here. See you again Sunday, I hope, or soon, or at least out in the infinitudes of the multiverse. So much love and much blessings and many blessings to you people.